Let's talk about next-gen gaming and whether or not the PS5 and the Xbox Series X are actually worth it at this point. Hey, as always, if you're enjoying the video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and please be sure to subscribe. Let's start with the PS5. So I have the PS5 All Digital Edition. So that obviously means no discs are going to work on this, be it a PS4 disc, a PS5 disc, whatever. It's all digital. And at this point, I'm just going to say kind of holistically, there are really sort of two ways you can look at this, but holistically, no, I think most people can wait, especially if you have a PS4 Pro. Now, if you don't have any, gaming system that's within the past, I guess, 10 years at this point, then yeah, if you can get your hands on a PS5, certainly there are a lot of benefits to that. And I'll talk about some of the quality of life stuff that goes along with it here in just a moment. But I think from a games perspective, and that's sort of the big thing, right now you've got, Miles Morales, Spider-Man Miles Morales, which is on the system. It runs great. It looks great. But, I guess it just sort of comes down to, is that a system seller and can you play that on the PS4? And the answer is, yeah, you can play it on the PS4. And so, again, there's not really, in my mind, a huge incentive to get a PS5 quite yet. There are some other games there. I think, honestly, one of the most amazing experiences that I've had with my PS5 is Astro's Playroom. And that's sort of a pack-in game that's free with the system. It really nicely shows off everything that the new DualSense controller can do with vibration and feedback and sounds and all of that good stuff. But again, I don't know that from a games perspective, it's really worth it to pick up a next-gen system at this point for the PlayStation, if you can find one. I mean, at this point, I'm recording this here at the end of April. At this point, they're really still impossible to find. I just happened to get lucky with mine. I was sort of there when they sort of had them available for pre-order when they first went up in November. And so, actually earlier in November, they launched in November. But when they first went up, I was able to get one. But I know now people have really struggled to find one. I feel fortunate that I was able to get one. But again, if you've got a PS4 Pro especially, I think you can wait on this. If you have a base PS4 or even a PS4 Slim, yeah, I do think it's worth it, games aside, from a quality of life perspective. So let's talk about quality of life. I think with both of these next-gen systems, be it the Xbox Series S or X or the PS5, you have really super fast load times, and I love that. I think at this point it would be really hard to go back to last gen and those load times, even though, I think from a variety of different perspectives, you can say, what's the big difference? It maybe is saving us 30 seconds here and there, maybe a minute. Is that a big deal? It kind of is a big deal to me. I've just gotten so accustomed to it that I don't know how well I would handle going back to how things were. But again, from a games perspective, I don't know that there's really a whole lot to really push forward with as far as making sure you get either one of these new systems. I do think the menu for the PS5 is good, but I think there has been a lot of sort of valid criticism leveled at it when you compare it to the way the PS4 UI was set up. I mean, for the most part, it's easy to navigate. It looks clean. It looks nice. It feels like a new experience, which is, I think, a big deal for some people. It doesn't feel, I wouldn't say, too iterative. In other words, it feels distinct enough from the PS4 UI to be kind of its own thing. But it does feel kind of inefficient at times, right? I mean, to put the system in rest mode, you've got to push the PlayStation button on the controller. You got to go over to the power icon, which is all the way on the right side of the screen, and then enter rest mode. Whereas with the Xbox, you can just hold it down and go into rest mode that way. And with Xbox, they really haven't changed a whole lot at all with their UI. I mean, you've got dynamic themes now and that sort of thing, which you can get on the Series S and X, but it basically is exactly the same as it was on the Xbox One. Now, again, talking about Xbox, I guess this is as good a time as any to transition into looking at that side of things. I have the Series S. I don't have the Series X, so I can't speak to that console specifically, even though, my understanding is that other than resolution, they're essentially the same thing, right? I mean, there may be some other sort of horsepower type things that the Series X has that the Series S may not, but really for all intents and purposes, they're the same console. Again, from a games perspective, I think this is where Xbox, at least at the moment, continues to struggle. They've made some huge strides as far as acquiring Bethesda goes, as far as, getting things like Fable sort of off and running, or in development, I should say. They've got a lot of things on the way. Halo Infinite's on the horizon. We're going to get that, I think, this calendar year at some point. But currently, if you have an Xbox One X, you really don't need to upgrade. Xbox's big thing is Game Pass. You can play that on the Xbox One and the Xbox One X, but again, on Series S and X, that's really sort of the big thing they have. And beyond that, the games are pretty much what you would get with the PS5. A lot of third-party offerings, which are great, but again, it's nothing really that sort of, I think is demanding people to go out, or really pushing people to go out and pick up the console from a games perspective. And that's sort of the big thing here, I think. Now, the Xbox does have things like quick resume, which I think works sort of intermittently in my experience. The load times, of course, are really good. Going back to that topic of the UI, because they did really sort of port over the Xbox One UI and continue to improve on that, it just feels super stable and super solid and is a great thing. Again, if you have an Xbox One X, I don't think you need a Series S or X. If you have a base Xbox One or the Xbox One S, yeah, I think the upgrade is probably worth it from a quality of life perspective, but in every other way, not really at this point. So to summarize, from a games perspective, no. I think if you're interested in games and that's your big reason for getting a next-gen console, you're probably good to go if you have a PS4 Pro, I would say, or an Xbox One X. If you have the base model of either one of those systems, then you can track down a Series S or X or a PS5 in either of its iterations, be it digital or physical, then yeah, it's worth getting. From a quality of life perspective, I think the upgrade is worth it, but I think people can wait. I don't know that it's sort of a must-have thing at the moment, but it will be, right? I mean, if you have one, you're in good shape because things like Horizon Zero Dawn, Forbidden West, and other games are going to be coming. God of War Ragnarok on the PlayStation side, Halo Infinite, Fable, exclusive Bethesda titles are on the way for Xbox, so you're in a good position. But if you have the strongest versions of last gen, I don't know that you need to rush out and get the new ones. And that's just my opinion on this. Anyway, let me know what you think about this. If you have the next gen consoles, then either of their formats, do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know in the comments below and let's have a little discussion. As always, thanks for watching.